What's up everyone? I'm back with Wideners. This is Kenzie here. Choosing a rifle for competition is a fun opportunity to figure out what you like. You could build something custom or upgrade an existing stock rifle. It all starts with choosing the competition that you want to participate in. There are a variety of rifle shooting sports to engage in, from shooting steel challenge in the rimfire rifle divisions to shooting the precision rifle series. You can try as many competitions as possible and customize the gun in a way that best fits your needs. As always, in the shooting sports industry, borrowing and trying a variety of guns and gear is a great start before committing and investing in your own. In this video, I'll go over some of the key factors to consider that will save you time and money before you invest in a competition rifle. Choosing a rifle for competition. Selecting a rifle for competition is easier said than done. That being said, you don't need to just go out and buy something. The best advice I can give you is talk to other competitors to find out what works for them. When I got started in competition shooting, and even in some cases today, I borrowed guns when I needed to. The shooting community is full of givers and people who want others to love shooting and have a good time. Customizing what matters. Don't just buy accessories to customize your rifle because they look cool, although that's part of it. It's important to make sure that each customization serves a purpose and improves overall performance. The customizations you need may vary between rifle competitions. So do your research and ask other competitors why they have certain parts or components on their gun. Weight considerations. Unfortunately, in a sport like PRS, you'll have to learn how to manage a heavy rifle. If the weight is unbearable and you can't get into different positions with it, you might need to lighten the rifle or find a different one. In Steel Challenge, you have to be able to hold the rifle up long enough and move it to impact the various targets quickly. In 3-gun, you may have the rifle slung across your back or find yourself shooting offhand at a plate rack 50 yards away. So if you can't hold your rifle up long enough to fire it when you need to do some weight training or find a better rifle that works for you. Recoil management. Recoil management is something you'll have to learn how to manage in all rifle shooting disciplines. Fortunately, there are ways to combat felt recoil. One of the best upgrades that I made is changing out the muzzle brake. The muzzle brakes that you choose can divert the gas to lighten the felt recoil you have when shooting. Adjustable muzzle brakes that are tunable to you and your ammunition are a game changer. I personally use and love 2 different muzzle brakes, the Unrivaled Technologies brake and the Tactical Rage. These 2 have set screws or different washers that direct the gases in different directions. So if you're a right-handed shooter or a left-handed shooter, you can change these gases to basically mitigate when you're pushing with your support hand. I love these, check them out because they are tunable to your ammo and you. The other component I changed to manage felt recoil is using an adjustable gas block. This allows you to tune the rifle for a softer shot. This adjustment with the right ammunition can play a big part in how much a rifle recoils. When you set up the block, basically have it wide open for the adjustability, shoot some ammo and make sure it ejects, and then tune it down. You want to get it to the point where it's soft recoiling, but where it still ejects the brass and isn't having malfunctions. Competition ammunition. Ammo cost and availability is an important consideration in choosing a rifle for competition. Choosing the caliber you can afford to buy practice and competition ammunition is something you need a budget for. Practice ammo and competition ammo have differences, such as different bullet grain weight, velocity, and other specifications. If the gun you choose is something you have to custom load ammunition for, factor in a budget for reloading supplies. Be aware that custom reloading can have a high cost up front, but it becomes a lower cost over time when you're reloading your own ammunition. So where to start with rifle ammunition? I'm specifically talking about a .223 or 5.56. The one thing that I practice with the most is 55 grain ammunition, and in shooting competitions, I actually run 2 types of ammo. And the 55 grain is what I use to shoot close-up paper targets, and I'm specifically talking about 3-gun or AK matches, and the reason for this is it's the cheapest. So this is what I use if I'm just kind of calling it burner ammo, run-and-gun style, or practice. Next up, I'm gonna go into the weeds a little bit. We've got 2 that I'll talk about. We have the 75 grain and the 77 grain. In especially 3-gun competitions, or even recently I shot an AK match with 200-yard targets and a spinner that was really heavy to move. So there's 2 factors with this ammo. You want to shoot a heavier bullet if you have something that you have to spin or impact, and that way you have enough pressure pretty much from that bullet impact to flip something. And then when it comes to long range ammunition, again, the 75 and the 77 grain is going to perform better than the 55, especially if there's wind. So this bullet is going to go a little bit better, sometimes a little bit faster, and hold up where you're not having to hold as much in wind or elevation. So you've got the Hornady here. They've got the boat tip ammunition. So we're talking about bullet tips here that will cut through the air really well. Hornady makes a great product in general. And then we have the Federal Premium Gold Medal ammunition. This is Sierra Match King bullets. Again, 77 grain, and Sierra Match Kings are awesome too. So again, the weeds really quick, but when you start thinking about long range shooting, a Kestrel is a great ballistic tool that you can put your data into in terms of the velocity, the bullet grain weight, and tell you exactly the holds that you need if you're shooting MOA or mils. So that's my rundown of rifle ammunition, and I would only recommend using the more expensive stuff when you have to, and the cheap stuff for practice. Let's talk about the different types of rifle competitions. Precision Rifle Series. So PRS is a rifle shooting competition that focuses on long-range precision rifle shooting. This game is a game of accuracy that comes down to understanding your scope and wind holds while getting into difficult shooting positions that challenge your ability to minimize your movement and get that accurate shot off. You'll enjoy PRS shooting if you enjoy understanding ballistic data. Part of the fun is hand-loading your ammunition to your rifle, dialing your scope and holding to make your shots, and learning different shooting positions to build a stable platform in the most awkward of situations. A PRS rifle can range in price from $2,000 to upwards of $8,000. You'll find that the scope is equally as important as the rifle itself. PRS rifles are much heavier than sporting rifles you may be used to. The goal of PRS rifles is to be as flat shooting and stable as possible to minimize movement. My favorite, 3-gun rifle competitions. So if you're entering into the sport of 3-gun, you'll need a rifle that can take some wear and tear. 3-gun rifles are not meant to be safe queens or babied, and neither are the scopes on top of them. If you look at any of my rifles, they have been torn up by barrels, barricades, concrete. They take a beating. So these are really important to run in rainy conditions, dusty conditions, all sorts of weather basically. At the end of the day, they're really expected to perform. Despite the running and gunning style of shooting that 3-gun is all about, most major matches are going to push your distance out to 600 yards. This means that your rifle barrel should have enough twist and length to handle shooting at a distance. The most common barrel length in 3-gun is 16 inches. A muzzle brake is typically added to reduce that felt recoil. And so specifically for barrels, I shoot a 16-inch 223 Wild from Ballistic Advantage because I wanted more distance but didn't want the added weight. You can also shoot a 16-inch 5.56 barrel, so you can run both 223 and 5.56. So it's really up to you in terms of the barrel, but 16 is probably the most popular out there. There's also a division called Heavy Division where you can shoot 308 ammunition. So that can get expensive when you're thinking about it, but hey, it's a lot of fun to shoot that division. Basically choose the barrel that is going to be the most accurate for you and perform at distance and close range. Now, while most all competitors shoot in divisions with scopes on their rifles, there is a division called Limited, where you use a red dot. And this is tough when you're shooting out to 600 yards, but I know some of the best shooters in the country that do this and do it really well. Speaking of the price for a 3-gun rifle, this can cost you maybe about $800 to upwards of $1,500. If you choose to run a scope, the most common and easy to use in 3-gun are the 1:6 magnification or 1:8. I've run Vortex, I've run Trigicon. If you want to get bougie with it, go with the Night Force. But there's a lot of options out there. EOTech also makes a 1:10, which is a little bit higher magnification, but they have a really good reticle system in there as well. Basically, my point is to make sure that you invest in a solid scope, scope mount, and rifle so that they're all equally as top-notch as they should be. When speaking about your scope for 3-gun, there are 2 different reticle systems. You could run the MOA or you can run mils. Now for me specifically, I like to shoot PRS and I like to shoot 3-gun. So I moved over to mils a few years ago. That way my basically language when I'm talking to other competitive shooters is the same. You know, MOA has a very simple reticle. So when I started 3-gun shooting, and if you're getting started, MOA can be very simple in terms of holds, so you're not having to learn the mils. But basically make sure that the reticle makes sense to you. You might have to hold a little bit of wind in there as well, so make sure that you have those on the left and the right of the reticle. The only person that needs to understand the reticle is you, so make sure you pick out what works for you. Let's talk about a Steel Challenge rifle. A Steel Challenge match is just that, a much bigger challenge than it appears. A Steel Challenge match is all about speed and learning quick movement from one target to the next. Before choosing a rifle for competition, let's talk about the two divisions within Steel Challenge. The rimfire rifle division is .22 long rifle only and includes rimfire rifle optics with an optic mounted or rimfire rifle iron sights. There are no other restrictions on the gun when it comes to compensators or weight. These guns are built for speed and need to run with no function failures. And in the world of .22, we know that's not very reliable in terms of ammo and the gun, but there are some really good manufacturers out there that make quality guns that'll run pretty much any type of ammo. Rimfire guns are most commonly known for getting dirty easily and failing to fire due to an unclean firearm. So what I do from stage to stage in Steel Challenge is run a quick bore snake down it. These rifles can range in price from $200 to upwards of $600, and when you get bougie with it, in the thousands. Depending on if you plan to shoot iron sights or a red dot, aftermarket sights should be considered so you can set the gun up to you. Similar to any other firearm, finding the right kind of .22 ammunition it likes to shoot is important. Spend time before a match test firing different manufacturers to find what runs consistently. I've had my gun tested for NRL 22 with Lapua ammo, and that just runs really well and efficient through it. Ely makes some great competition ammo. Federal does as well, Aguila. Basically, you want to choose a good practice ammo, and then you want to have your match quality ammunition. Honestly, failure to feeds on the clock and Steel Challenge pretty much put you out of the ballpark and out of the game really quick, so you want to make sure that you're choosing pretty good .22 LR ammo. Okay, we're talking about two different sports here, NRL 22 and Steel Challenge. Now, what's common about all of these ammunitions for the most part is it'll be 40 grain when it comes to the .22 LR. One of the best practice ammunitions here is CCI, comes in bulk packaging and fairly affordable, so I definitely recommend that for practice rounds. Getting into a little bit of the weeds, because I'm a nerd, is looking at Lapua and SK. This is really good competition ammo for NRL 22. Then I would say Ely and Norma are really good for Steel Challenge. Again, you're looking at 40 grain, 43 grain. Ely and Lapua also like coat their bullets with a little bit of grease or oil to make it a little bit more smooth when it goes up the feed ramp. Ejection's pretty simple, but you want to look at the match specifically, or if this is the Extreme LR22. So definitely look through different ammunition types, test them in your firearm, ensure that they run, and have fun. Close quarters combat or CQB rifle. CQB or outlaw or low light rifle matches are a ton of fun to shoot. If you find one near you, I highly recommend signing up because these are really rare to find. A short barreled rifle or an SBR is a perfect rifle for any of these. They're like bay type stages, quick shooting, and you might find yourself maneuvering through shoot house walls. When you're shooting a CQB match, you could have an SBR, but if you don't have an SBR, make sure you have a lightweight rifle. Basically, you're gonna be moving as quick as possible, and outlaw matches are probably gonna have you just shoot 2 on brown target and move on. I highly recommend using a red dot system. I wouldn't mount a scope because a scope is very bulky, and looking through those can take a little bit longer for you to bring the scope up and find your illuminated dot or whatever you have on there. So I run a red dot on top that's zeroed for a different distance, like 50 yards, with an offset red dot that's basically zeroed at 7 or 10 yards. And that way I can shoot paper that's close up really quickly and transition if there's any long shots. So I hope that makes sense to you, but basically you want to move as fast as possible, have it maybe shorter, lightweight, and use a red dot is my recommendation. AK competitions. If you've never been to an AK competition, I would call them a little bit of a LARP fest. These people like to dress up and they run all sorts of types of AKs. So there's different divisions. You've got iron sights, you've got optics, and then you have two different here with light, meaning you're shooting .223 or .556, or you're shooting heavy. You've got the 7.62 round out there. So for AK matches, same thing as a CQB rifle. You want something that's quick, easy to maneuver, and it's really your choice here. You could shoot a LPVO on top and have an offset red dot for close-up paper or what have you, because you are going to have some distance shots in these types of matches. Or I run this. You could have a primary red dot on top that's basically a bigger window size that's zeroed at 50 yards, and then have that offset for close-up paper. The setup is really going to depend on what you have. And honestly, I've seen people run really old AKs all the way up to fancy Galils that I run because cheater gun. So make sure you set up a rifle that is going to fit one of those divisions and have fun because AK matches are a blast. Building your competition rifle. If you want to get into the shooting sports, don't let building a rifle slow you down. Most shooters I know started with a stock rifle, including me. They customized a few pieces at a time and then ended up building a custom rifle when they were ready. Finding out what you like and what's useful is something that comes with practice. Accordingly, you need to experience shooting enough competitions to know what you need and what you don't need. Don't forget to ask the competition community you want to join of what they use. Shooters can be the most helpful resource on what they've learned from their time competing. You're probably wondering, what pieces do I need to customize, Kenzie? Well, I'll tell you, I started with the stock rifle and I did actually make a small modification, maybe each week that I was learning about rifles. One of the biggest things for my hand size was not being able to reach the mag release on an AR-15, so I used an extended mag release button now on all of my rifles. Same thing on the left side of the gun. The bolt release, is a kind of a small paddle, so I upgraded that to a bigger size on one of my rifles. So in terms of tuning the rifle for felt recoil, there's several factors. Obviously, we talked about muzzle brakes because you can get a tunable one for you and your ammo. The other thing is an adjustable gas block, but then in the rear of the gun, we want to talk about the buffer system. There's different weights in the buffer and it's going to match up with your bolt carrier group. So most of my rifles run a lightweight bolt carrier group, so I need a different buffer that's set up for that. When all of these things match up, it runs super well. The biggest thing that you want to change out for competition is the trigger. I haven't ran a mil-spec trigger in years because competition shooting is all about fast pulls and easy resets. A couple triggers to name is Hyperfire, Trigger Tech, Timney. All of these make AR-15 triggers that are set up for competition. Now, the other part of the rifle that is really going to be up to you is whether or not you need a foregrip, maybe grip panels on it. Being able to have that same indication point on the rifle when you go to get on it is important. The last component is the stock. So you want to have a stock that's set up for you, your cheek rise, and basically your scope height. So there's Luth AR that makes a stock that has a cheek riser that's adjustable, so you can set it up for your scope height. There's also Magpul that makes a wider one with a little bit of height added to it, but this is really important to setting up the gun to you to be able to see your optic. So a bunch of modifications there that I've dumped on you, but really making one or two modifications here and there really helps tune the gun for you. So when you're ready for a reload and get that ammunition for your rifle competition, head over to Widener's. Check out our full blog all about choosing a competition rifle for more info.